News today is about NASA, America, and Roscosmos, Russia, teaming up to make a moon base in order to eventually fly to Mars. So, Russia and America teaming up to go to Mars. I find it funny when they talk about Trump and Putin, but yet when it comes to space, these two governments, they get along. Let's watch this video. I'm leaving a comment at the end of it, because if they do make a base on the moon, and I'm going to share my comment at the end and why I'm saying what I'm saying, I would become a believer in a ball spinning and a ball spinning earth once again. Let's look at this video.
Russian Roscosmos Space Organization and NASA just announced a truly far-out partnership that will change space. The two countries just signed an agreement to build a space base to orbit the moon. NASA watchers might even know the name of it, the Deep Space Gateway, and that is because as part of its plans to eventually get humans to Mars, the U.S. Space Agency set a mid-2020s goal of building a lunar base. Each group released a statement confirming the decision, and they also mention a broader joint moon program between the two countries. This partnership does kind of make sense, since the existing life support system on the International Space Station was designed by the Russians, and if you remember how expensive it was to even build the ISS, having Russian cooperation is what let Congress vote for its continued build back in 1994. The nitty-gritty details of this lunar space station come from a Roscosmos statement that also describes having all new technical standards for the build. That is because the ISS has different ports for all the multiple vehicles that dock on it, from the Russian Soyuz to private SpaceX craft. So even space has a fragmentation problem. But if there is one agreed-upon docking standard, coordinating all kinds of future missions and flights should be far easier. This is a big deal because even though NASA had laid out ambitious space goals to eventually get to Mars, the agency doesn't have the budget to support those efforts by itself. Popular Mechanics reported last week that international partners are considering signing onto this lunar base plan, so we'll see how much more support this picks up. Remember, European, Canadian, and Japanese space agencies also helped to build the ISS. For more Engadget Today, check back tomorrow.
So I'm glad that made the news, because I will change my mind of being a flat earther. I would change my mind and go back into believing in a ball earth. But this is what is going to this is how that will happen. And this is a challenge to flat earthers and for ball earthers. But on the day that they start, they put a satellite on the moon to orbit the moon. Never mind, they already have one now. Never mind. There's a Japanese satellite orbiting the moon right now as we speak. And yet we cannot see it orbiting the moon through a telescope or through a Nikon 900. Now the crazy thing is, once they supposedly put up that orbiting satellite, we should all take a telescope and see with our own eyes that satellite of the Russians and the Americans orbiting the moon with our cameras and our telescopes, and to see if we see any satellite orbiting. And then they said that they're going to colonize the moon. Again, I want to be able to take my telescope or a camera, any flat earther, any ball earth person, and look as they construct a base on the moon. You can see great detail of the moon with a telescope and a Nikon 900. So I wish NASA and the Russians, I wish they do go into space and orbit the moon, eventually land on it, and colonize the moon with their biodomes. And I want to witness all of this through a telescope or a camera that can zoom in. Once I see for myself with the scientific tools like a telescope that there is a satellite orbiting, never mind there's one already orbiting the moon right now and we never see it come across the moon, never mind that we don't see a satellite crossing the face of the moon with a telescope. But I'll give you one more chance, and I'll wait to 2020s, like you stated in the video, to see this orbiting satellite with the Russians and NASA in space, and to eventually colonize the moon before you colonize Mars. You talk about terraforming Mars, and I think that's the most ridiculous thing to say, that you can terraform Mars. Why don't you try to terraform the deserts of Earth and make the deserts into fertile land? If you think you can terraform Mars, wouldn't you start by terraforming this Earth, the deserts? Science just speaks science fiction, and everyone gets excited. People hear terraforming Mars, and everyone goes crazy. They think their scientists can do such a thing. But we have deserts on Earth, and Mars resembles the deserts of Earth. But yet I haven't seen a scientist terraform the desert here on Earth. Wouldn't it be great if scientists can do this here first and then think about Mars? Why don't you terraform the moon? The moon is in the habitable zone. How is the moon going to be right next to Earth and it has no Earth-like properties except supposedly being a rock? The moon is in the right position to have water and atmosphere. It should be a mini Earth because it's from it is in the right distance from the sun. It's our neighbor. Why don't you go try first to terraform the moon? It's right next to us. Right there in the sky. The closest object to us. Why don't we terraform that and live there first? I wish NASA hired me so that I can give them these thoughts. I wish I was employed by NASA because I believe that these should be the steps that we should be having before taking those enormous steps on Mars. So I will become a ball Earth believing person again once I see an orbiting satellite and the colonization of the moon by the Americans and by the Russians.